To what extent does she accept responsibility for the outcomes of Oranga Tamariki's actions in relation to community provider funding cuts and military-style academies?
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I refer the member to the Cabinet Manual. I am accountable to this House for ensuring that Oranga Tamariki carries out its functions properly and efficiently. In terms of the actions of individual public servants, this may be a matter for the Chief Executive, or in the case of the Chief Executive, the Public Service Commissioner. And to be clear, there have not been funding cuts overall. Oranga Tamariki received more money in Budget 2024 than it returned. Some provider contracts have expired and not been renewed. Some other contracts have been reduced and others have been increased. Oranga Tamariki allocated over $500 million in contracted funding last year, and I'm advised they will do so again this year.
Supplementary. Is she responsible for making sure that Oranga Tamariki meets her, quote, expectation is that there will be no gaps in service provisions for children in care or who have come to the attention of Oranga Tamariki?
Mr. Speaker, my expectations is that we are focusing where there are gaps and trying to make sure that we plug those gaps, which was the whole point of re-looking at how we contract so that we do it better. Not like it used to be done, where we actually accepted the fact that money was sitting in bank accounts, not being spent on our kids, contracts were underutilised, contracts were not being delivered properly, and we're making sure that that is better.
Supplementary. Will she take responsibility for the thousands of highly vulnerable children and their families, 70% of whom are known to Oranga Tamariki, who will in just a few weeks lose Stand to Maya's specialised trauma treatment and intensive wraparound family support and alternative to statutory care because Oranga Tamariki has suddenly cut their funding mid-contract due to her budget decisions, and if not, why?
Mr. Speaker, whilst I disagree with the assertions that's been made in that question, I understand this matter is currently before the courts, so I'm not going to comment on that specific contract.
Supplementary. Is it correct that she received a letter from Stand to Maya's Chief Executive, Fiona Inkpin, that told her that Stand to Maya acts as a fence at the top of the cliff, quote, the impact of removing the fence will be that these children and families are failed once again. Trust will die, and I do not say this lightly, but potentially so will some of them, end quote. And if so, why is she not taking control of the situation?
Mr. Speaker, I have said in the previous answer that this matter is before the courts, so I'm not going to comment on that specific contract. Yes, I did receive a letter, but Mr. Speaker, the reality is that what we were doing was not working. There needed to be changes within Oranga Tamariki to reset their focus to make sure that we are getting the best results for our young people. This will mean sometimes contracts won't stay the same, and this will mean that it will upset some contractors. But does it mean it's not the right thing to do? No, it doesn't, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary. Does she take responsibility for the situation described by a frontline social worker who says, quote, people are becoming more disheartened and looking more exhausted as we try to do more with less under the cuts. Our sector is at risk of major burnout. I have never in the 18 years of being a social worker seen things this bad. I have become completely disillusioned and disheartened with what this government is not only doing, but getting away with, unquote, and if not, why?
Mr. Speaker, I don't know who that comment came from, and I can't speak to how they're feeling. But what I would say, Mr. Speaker, is we have been given something that was incredibly shambolic to try and fix.
100%.
This has been a problem for many, many years within Oranga Tamariki. It couldn't continue the way it was. Report after report after report was telling us we were not meeting the national care standards for our young people. I am determined to make make sure that all young people in the care of Oranga Tamariki are as safe as possible, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Supplementary. Is there anything new to her knowledge since I last asked in the House regarding how many military-style academy pilot participants in total have allegedly reoffended, including offending not involving the police, or breached the conditions of their in-community transition plan?
Mr. Speaker, no. But what I would say, Mr. Speaker, is it is incredibly disappointing that the opposition is so eager to exploit these young people and the work that they are trying to do to better themselves. They conveniently forget that these are young people that have volunteered to be part of a program to try and turn their lives around. Singling out these 9 young men and making a soap opera out of their lives for political gain is disgusting.